everyone. All right, I wanted to hop on today to share a really cool insight I had yesterday. And full disclosure, to be completely honest, I was having new insights about this little metaphor that I found yesterday flowing into me this morning, and I just felt this urgency to share it. And then I decided to eat something not so great for me, and it literally reduced or clouded my inspiration. So, full disclosure, I'll be honest about that, especially because that's interesting to me anyway. It's a good lesson. All right, so on to the topic of today. So I wanted to talk today about universal laws, resistance to growth, and codependency. And it all came to me yesterday in this analogy of if someone happens to be holding a rock above where their foot is and they drop it, it's going to land on their foot, it's going to hurt. And if they keep doing that, it's just going to keep getting hurt. And sometimes the human reaction is, ow, ouch, my toe's getting crushed. I cut my foot, it's bleeding, this hurts, this is painful. And sometimes when we first notice something painful in our life, we can devote all of our energy to resisting it and saying this hurts so bad. This shouldn't be happening. Why am I having so much pain? And people can, instead of learning from it, just kind of direct their energy towards resisting it and being upset about it. So, but the law of gravity is consistent, and so if they keep doing that, they keep dropping rocks on their foot, it's going to keep landing on their foot, and it's going to keep hurting. And it's just going to get worse. Their foot's going to get crushed, they're going to have to go get stitches, they might break something, it's going to be painful, there's a lot of nerve endings in the toes, it's going to keep hurting. But sometimes, as humans, we decide to just sit there and complain about how this shouldn't be this way. This shouldn't be allowed to happen. I resist the law of gravity. I'm upset that this happens. This isn't right. Nature shouldn't be doing that to me. Nature shouldn't have the law of gravity. I'm very upset about this, and I'm just going to commit a lot of energy into trying to prove why this shouldn't be this way. I might even put energy into creating movements and trying to get people on board of this isn't fair, this shouldn't work this way. I don't like it. I don't like that my foot gets hurt every time I drop a rock. And whenever we do that with a universal law, a law of the universe, that's going to be consistent. It's going to be that way every single time we do it. We can keep getting hurt because we're on the wrong side of the law. Or if we learn about it and go, okay, what is the situation? What's going on here? And then learn about gravity, and that gravity is a law and that it's consistent, then we can use it in our favor and be on the same team with gravity and utilize it for levers and pulleys, or or move our foot out of the way whenever we see something falling, because we know already what's going to happen, and we can be on the same side of gravity and no longer get hurt by it. But as humans, we're very funny. The human condition is to resist change, to be upset about pain, and sometimes focus our attention on what we don't like about it. Whereas, I don't know if you guys have experienced this or done it yourself, excuse me. But sometimes we can just sit down and say, this isn't fair that this exists and that this is happening. Or we can watch people do that, and it's easier to see in other people. So it can be oh, I see what you're doing there. You keep dropping a rock on your foot. You could try to intervene and say hey, I don't know did you know about the law of gravity? If you want to learn a little bit more about it, I'd be happy to share anything I know about it. That it works like this. It works consistently, and we have to work in tandem with it and move our foot out of the way, or drop rocks a little further away from ourselves, because this is what's going to happen. And it's going to be consistent. So if you want to drop another rock right above your foot, I already know what's going to happen. And sometimes people don't want to learn about it because they're still in the first step of realizing that they're having pain, and then being upset about it and resisting and saying I don't want to, I know I shouldn't have to change. This law of the universe should change because this hurts. So anyway, so then I like analogies and metaphors, because sometimes it helps me see things in my life that I'm not seeing otherwise, because we all see through our own lens. of whatever glasses we currently have, whatever our perception and life experience currently is, whatever our knowledge and our ignorances currently are, is what we're looking through to look at the world. So we all have blind spots, and we all have spots where we're doing this to ourselves. And it can be hard to see. But luckily life is a mirror, and life will mirror back to us what's inside of us. And so we'll get clues, and if we play detective, we'll be able to, like, if you pay attention to your thoughts and your life and experiences you're having and reactions you get from the outside world, it can help you see and notice things. So it was pretty funny after I thought of that metaphor and seeing that in other people and the options of what I can do when I see that in someone else. I can offer a reframe or offer insight or invite them to hold an experiment of trying things a different way. And sometimes people are open to that and say, yeah, well, that would require me changing and require me to stop doing this. Ugh, I don't like change, but I don't like this pain. So, it would be worth a try. I'm willing to experiment and try a suggestion or try something new. And so, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so then I was noticing where I do that in my own life. And I experience it the most in discovering shadow aspects in myself, or wounds, or limiting beliefs, and which we all have. Everyone's got shadow aspects and pieces of their psyche and things inside of them that aren't in alignment with universal law and aren't in alignment with their deepest desires. And whenever we see them, we have the chance to go into denial of like, no, this isn't really happening, or this isn't my fault, or like, I'm not the one to blame or to change. So for example, if we have a limiting belief of, if I don't do everything perfectly, I don't deserve to thrive, or I don't deserve to be happy, or I myself and everyone around me should be disappointed in me and should belittle me if I don't do things perfectly. So that's not, that's going to create a certain reaction and result every single time, because that's not a truth belief. It's not in alignment with truth. And so, and sometimes when you first notice it, I'm like, man, why do I have this mood? Like this mood that comes in and these emotions that come in every time I'm working on a project, and then there's a hiccup or it doesn't go the way I thought it would. Why do I have this huge reaction where I feel like so upset and so like my self-esteem just plummets? Why does that happen to me? Like, why does that? And it happens every single time. And then it makes me like want to stop engaging in new projects or trying new things. What is going on there? And sometimes the psyche will go, I bet it's someone else's fault. I bet it's, whatever. But once we see like, oh, let me look around, let me think about it, let me like notice what thoughts I'm having while I'm working on projects. And then so say I'm watching myself, I notice like, whoa, I just told myself like, if this doesn't go perfectly, I will be disappointed. I'll be so ashamed. I'll be so ashamed for anyone to know that it didn't go perfectly. And if I notice myself think that thought, I can go, whoa, okay, there it is. There is the hand that's dropping a rock on my foot repeatedly, and it's my own hand. Okay, so then often my first reaction is, what? Like, that's inside of me? Because my conscious self, can logically believe differently and see how that's not helpful or productive or true, that I should be perfect all the time, otherwise I should feel so ashamed of myself. So consciously, usually our conscious self is at a different place and doesn't necessarily buy into a limiting belief that our subconscious has. So when we first see it, we have the option to say, no, denial, that's not in me. I don't need to address that or look at that or spend time on it and spend time trying to fix that. Or if we see it, we can go, whoa, boy, that makes a lot of sense. Why I kept having those emotional reactions and having such turmoil inside whenever something didn't go perfectly or didn't go according to plan. Yeah, that feels true. Like that resonates, that really is inside of me somewhere. Okay, all right. So I got to own that and then go to work releasing it. So then you can either do EFT tapping or schedule an energy session or do any other releasing modality you like, writing and burning, whatever, or talk therapy, whatever you like to do to shift subconscious beliefs and shift energy. and address it, and then bring in the new positive replacement and move on after that's fixed. But for me, the moment of like when I see myself dropping rocks on my foot is usually my first reaction when I find something inside myself is like, what? That's inside of me. I don't like that. Like that's like a really harsh belief that like I should feel so ashamed of myself and I should have no self-confidence if I can't do everything perfectly. Like that's heavy, and that's so like damaging. And then like for a moment my system can kind of go into the like, do I want to go through the process of like acknowledging that and then doing some work and some sessions on myself to fix it, or should I just look away and say like, nah, I don't need to address that. So that's kind of a vague example, but that's the example that came to mind for me. So what I love is that life is a mirror, and we'll get consistent if we keep dropping rocks on our foot, if we keep thinking limiting false foundational beliefs, if we keep doing behaviors, eating food that our body has a huge reaction to, which I did this morning, I'm learning. If anything that we do in our life that causes pain to us, it's going to be consistent. If we keep doing it, it'll keep hurting until we notice and become aware and have our eyes opened to how we're dropping rocks on our foot, and then seeing how, oh, I could change something here in order to get a different result. But it requires openness. And so then the insight that came this morning about this is where codependence fits in. Codependence would be, you see someone dropping a rock on their foot every day, and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for them. Their toes hurt, their foot is getting crushed. Like they have to go to the hospital and like get stitches every week because like of all these difficulties and these problems that are coming from them dropping a rock on their foot all the time. So codependency would be like, oh, I feel so bad for them. I don't want them to have that pain. Or maybe it's your wallet that the money to go to the hospital and get stitches every week is coming out of. For whatever reason, if we decide like, I want to save them from that, I'm going to take on the job of standing next to them and watching all the time. And if I notice that they're dropping a rock, I need to jump in there and catch it before it hits their foot. So taking on that job of like, I'll be hypervigilant and I will take responsibility for them, and I will always be watching, and I'll be the one whose job it is to prevent the pain from happening, and I gotta always be catching all these rocks. It doesn't help them, because if they're not gonna notice that like, wow, this behavior I'm doing or this thought I have, it's hurting me, is not getting good results. They're not gonna have the chance to notice that if you take away all the consequences, if you take away the reactions, if you try to save them from the pain of and discomfort of whatever they're in, then they're not going to notice. I like that. I feel like that was a great way to describe codependency. And then also for myself, I wouldn't want someone to take on the job of like committing all of their life and their focus, a portion of their energy and their time every day to just being hypervigilant and watching my behaviors, to like come in and take over the responsibilities. So I wouldn't want that people to be doing that on my behalf, and I also don't want me to be doing that on other people's behalf, because it's gonna, spend all my energy on something that's not even helping them, really. It might make their pain go away, or like if someone, there's lots of examples of codependency. But, alright, so this might have seemed kind of random and out there, but this was the cool metaphor that came to mind for me, and I love metaphors, so I thought I'd share it for anyone else who also loves them. And have a wonderful day, guys. And I'd love to hear if you have any thoughts that come to mind on this topic. I always love hearing other perspectives.